Making XR real. Thanks for sticking around. So it's February of 2011. Rony Abovitz has a visionary idea, and he knows some good people. The entity that he's going to use for Magic Leap hasn't been formed yet, but having done this before, he knows what he needs to do, which is he's got to make sure his intellectual property is protected. He's got to get good people going. He's got to get some funding, and he's got to move forward. Because I'm a business lawyer who has been immersed in both tech and entertainment for many, many years, a mutual friend of ours and an old client of mine made a referral to me and asked if I could help out with Magic Leap in its early days. Since I've guided a bunch of companies through early stages, the answer was yes. I got to do that. I was very fortunate to be able to do that. And the rest is all the crazy history. So today is about taking your idea and trying to figure out how to build it. So I'm going to be talking about the kind of Silicon Valley story arc. There are a lot of different ways to get funded and build a business, but what I'm going to be talking about today is the kind of the classic version of you get an idea and you want to build it out, you want to get it funded, you want to make it big, and ultimately you want to have an exit. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the kind of investors that there are. Now, so first of all, just in talking about investors, first of all, there's what we call friends and family round. That's kind of, and I'm going to do this kind of in order of how it usually goes. This is a friends and family, or as some people like to call it, the friends, family, and fools round. And that's really to get off the ground. That's the first bit of money you need to hire the lawyer, to do the wireframe, like the very, very beginning of what you're up to. After that, you get angels, and angels usually have, they'll invest maybe a few $100,000, maybe up to $1 million or $2 million. It really varies. There are angel investor networks in which a group of angels come together and they'll kind of co-invest in things. Then from there on, you might have corporate investors. If your idea is something that an existing company might find to be of value, you might be able to get some funding there. And of course, venture capital comes after the early rounds. And sometimes venture capital comes in the early rounds, but that's not as common. Later on, in the deep into it, you might get into funds, the Fidelities of the world and things like that. But that's not really part of what we're talking about, just for completeness. One thing I want to say is that savvy angels will want you to have the same kind of structure and the same kind of setup that a venture capitalist will in the later rounds. And the reason for that is that the angels know that they're investing first and that there's going to be a follow-on usually, and so they know that whatever is happening inside the company has to be appetizing to the venture capitalists, so they're going to kind of require a lot of the same stuff. All right. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to sit down, you're going to go, all right, I've got this idea, and you're going to do kind of a self-analysis of this business. What are investors going to want to see? Can your company deliver that? So one of the things is they're going to want, this is something you're going to have to do very early on. You're going to have to size the market. Is this something that is billions of dollars? Is it hundreds of millions? Is it tens of millions? If it's tens of millions or 100 millions, that can be great. I mean, that can be awesome, but it isn't going to attract the attention of VCs, because VCs take as much time to vet a $50 million company as they do a $50 billion company, and time is time and obviously their cash are the biggest assets they have. So if they don't see a home run in their future, they're not going to invest. And carrying that back down, if the angels don't see the home run in the future, they are not going to think that they're going to get a follow-on round from VC. So you got to really size the market. Is it scalable? This is one of the favorite terms in Silicon Valley. If you're opening a store and then you're opening another store and you're opening another store, there's a lot of costs in doing that. If you're creating software and once it's done, you can just blast it out to 1 million people as easy as you can blast it out to 100 people, then you've got something scalable. There's kind of moderate costs of, that kind of go with that growth, but not massive costs. And that is the Silicon Valley model to a T. Let's make this thing scalable. Where we go? Okay, so it has to fill a need. what is the thing? What is the pain point? What did you, why did you do this in the first place? What is it that caused this? What do you see as the reason for this? What is the hole that you're filling? Okay, so you have to kind of understand that. You got to know why you're doing what you're doing, what problem it's solving, and then you get that market research done. If you've gotten all that market research done and you know you've got something with a good market size, you've got something that's scalable, you've got something that really fills a need for consumers, for business, for whoever your target market is, then cool, then you are on your way. So now what? So now you've done the work, you've got a sense of the business you're putting together, you're confident that investors are going to get the concept, and that that it's going to fill a big need and that it's going to be huge. So what happens next? So you form your corporation. Now everybody knows that you do that, but why do you do that? So first of all, if you don't have a corporation formed, there's no actual bank account to receive the money, and it seems pretty basic, but it's true. So you've got to have a corporate set up in order to be able to take in money. You could take it in personally, but nobody's going to do that. That causes more problems than it solves. You want to hire people. You want to hire good people. Good people in this world want equity. They want to have some sort of participation stake in the company. The only vehicle to do that is to create an entity and issue stock or options. So you got to have that in order to get the talent you want in. This one seems obvious, but you would be amazed how many times I have seen this not be true. You've come up with this great idea. Maybe you've got something that's patentable. You've got an idea. You've got a concept, and you create the company, and you don't move the IP into it. And suddenly, investors are being asked to invest in an entity that doesn't have the IP in it. Well, you need to do that. You need to transfer the IP into the company. That's where it's held. Investors need to be able to see that, so you've got to have an entity in order for that to happen. The classic reason that you form an entity is to protect yourself. You don't want something where something goes sideways in this business and you lose your house and all your other belongings. Corporate entities, if done properly, will definitely help you, protect your personal assets from any kind of bad things that might happen. There are tax benefits and this goes way beyond the scope of this conversation, but there are tax benefits for forming an entity, all sorts of deductions and all that stuff. So investors insist, they're going to want to see the entity, they're going to want to know that you did that right, and that goes to the next point, which is that you don't look like an idiot. Because if you come to an investor and you haven't formed an entity and the IP isn't clear, nobody knows where it is or who actually owns it, and you don't have a team, then you've come too soon, and they're also thinking, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, I am not going to back this. So you're going to have a lot of trouble getting investment in that. All right, so you formed your entity, and now you've got to hire the right people, because people are what everything is about here. There's the old trope in real estate that the three most important things in real estate are location, location, location. In this world, in the funding world, it's management, management, management. You will see, I have seen good management teams with mediocre ideas get funded, but you rarely see a great idea with a lousy management team get funded, because things are going to change. The company needs to get built. If the investors don't have a belief that you can manage all the crazy stuff that's about to happen, then it doesn't matter how good the idea is, it's not going to get done. So you'll bring in some employees, you'll bring in consultants, you'll bring in advisors. You're kind of aggregating the team of the best talent you can. So how do you do that? You network, you do your research, you find who are the people, who are the luminaries in your field, and this is particularly true for advisors, because you have your employees, maybe you have a good coder or somebody who can carry off the thing you want, but whatever field you're in, if you can bring advisors in that are major players in that field, if you can convince somebody who is a known name that they should be on your advisory team, that's going to bring tremendous value to your company in terms of guidance and wisdom, but it's also going to bring a network, it's going to bring credibility, it's going to help you immensely in the fundraising process. You got to be fearless. You really have to, like, you see that there's somebody out there who you really want to talk to, you go ahead and you do that. You don't be shy about this, and you make the right offer to them. And the whole, don't be shy is a really big part of this, because you have to show inspiration. I mean, working at Magic Leap, the most amazing thing about Roni was that he could go into any room and show people his vision, and they got it right away. And I was always waiting for the day that somebody would go, I don't get it. And it never happened, because he had this tremendous vision, he was inspired, he was passionate about it, and he could communicate that. You have to be able to do that in order to get the people you want in the door. And getting the people you want in the door is critical to the whole fundraising process. Okay, so now hopefully you've got your friends and family to help you out, or you've got a few bucks in the bank that you can apply to this. And my joke here, which is not funny, is if your family won't fund you, get a new family. All right, a little bit funny. But I mean, the more that you can self-fund and before you go to investors, the more value you show. The company literally has more value as you're going out for money, and that's a really good thing. It gives you a better ability to negotiate. And B, you're showing the investors that you have skin in the game, that you really care, that you really believe in this product. If they don't think that you believe, then why should they? So self-funding, if you can start that way. All right, so then you're going to develop whatever it is, the wireframe, the demo, the prototype, whatever that first step is that gives people an idea of what it is you're doing. You walk into somebody's office. I mean, investors are really smart, so this is not a put down, but you must assume that an investor has a limited imagination. You got to show them the thing. You can't just talk about it. Some investors have short attention span because they've got a million deals going at the same time. So you have to walk in with a visual representation of what you're talking about, what this thing is. Otherwise, you can assume that nobody's going to sit there and try to work it out for themselves. So, and very importantly, whatever your development process is, you've got to try to understand. You have to understand it. You have to understand how how the thing you're going to build is going to get built. What is not just how much money it's going to take, how long it's going to take, what your technological requirements are. All right, and that kind of leads to the next thing, which is you've got to work on your financials. You really have to have a sense of what the company is going to, what's going to be involved. So, and the financials are a story. All this stuff, you're storytelling when you're talking to an investor. So, for example, looking at that and listening to me, $2 million will get us to soft launch. It'll last 18 months, at which point we'll have created enough value in the company to go from a $10 million valuation to a $50 million valuation. We will go out for a follow-on round, and that money will get us to a big splash in the market and to profitability, and then we are going to go public or sell to, insert the name. So right there, you can see what I've just done. We're talking about we're one ahead. We're talking about, how did that happen? So we're talking about what you need, we're talking about how long it's going to last, we're talking about the milestone. Your story is this money is going to get me to this milestone, and it's going to create value so that when we go for the follow-on round, it's going to be more expensive, and you, investor, are already going to be in the positive. Then what happens next? That's the follow-on round, and then how does the investor get out? And the exit strategy is huge. If an investor comes in and they don't see how you're going to get them their money back, because that's why they're there, then they're probably not going to invest. The people who don't ever want to have an exit, that can be great. You can run a great business that way. You can retire off that. You can do all sorts of great things, but you're not going to get a VC to come in because they need to get that money out. They've got a time horizon, 5 years, 7 years, whatever. They're putting the money in. They expect to get a multiple out. Okay, so you've worked on your financials. You've got your financial story. Now you have an opportunity to sit in front of an investor. The investors are going to tell you probably what they want from the pitch deck and what the pitch needs to look like. But in general, pitch decks are short, 10 to 15 slides. You usually only have about 10 minutes or less to go through your pitch deck and give them the value proposition. And these are the things that you've got to say in your pitch deck. These are usually separate slides, and you're going to kind of talk about this. So who are you? What is the problem that you're attempting to solve? What is your solution? What's the market size? And as I was saying, it better be large. Who's your competition? People actually think that who's your competition, that the right answer is we have no competition. But we have no competition is the answer you give when either A, you haven't done the market research and they know you haven't done the market research, or B, there's no market there because nobody else is interested. So, competition validates the market. So do that one right. Then you're going to talk about what your product is, and you're going to talk about why it's you rather than somebody else, why your solution is better than anybody else's. How you make money, this is critical. And I know a lot of people are in here because they want to build something cool, and I love that, and this is one of the reasons I do what I do is for the passion of my clients who are trying to invent things. But I'm a pragmatist here, and if you want to get the money in to be able to build the thing you want to build, you have to show the business case for that to the people who are going to put the money in. So how do you make money? You show the financial projections. You want to get your expenses as realistic as possible, and you're going for several years of projections here. You're going to show them how you're going to use the funds. How much of it is salaries, how much of it is technical infrastructure, how much of it is legal and accounting, that kind of stuff. Have that thought through. This goes again to, they're not only assessing the idea, they're assessing you as a manager, as somebody who can lead this company. So the more you have this stuff thought through, the better off the pitch is going to go. Your revenues are going to be unrealistic. Everybody's going to show the hockey stick. If you don't show the hockey stick, then why are you even there? The investors know that, you know that they know you're blowing smoke a little bit. You know that they know you're blowing smoke a little bit, but that is really what you have to do. You have to show the big potential. The thing that is right about this, that's what's happening, is that when you show the revenues, they don't have to be right, but the revenue streams have to be good. You have to identify all the different revenue streams. You got to show people that you know how you're going to make money in the different ways that that's going to happen. So that will impress a good investor. You want to show them how much money has been spent so far, including especially your personal skin in the game. The more money you can put in before you go out for investors, the more impressed the investors will be in your own dedication to the company. And again, the more value the thing already has. Because if you think of what you're doing is you're selling a piece of the company for money. And so the less company you've got to sell to get the same amount of money, the better. So the more the value of the company is at the time you're talking to somebody, the better the deal you can make. And the last thing is you're going to talk about your management team and your advisors. Now, I have this last, but it doesn't necessarily go that way. If it's, if you're 3 kids in a garage, that's probably your last team, and you're trying to impress people as much as you can with what they've all done. But if you have some really credible people, that slide can go way up front. My standard joke is. Thing keeps sliding forward. My standard joke is, here's my best pitch is this. I'm Michael, I'm the CEO. This is Sharon, she's my CTO. This is Bob, he's my Chief Marketing Officer. This is our 4th startup. Each of the 3 first startups have returned more than 10x to our investors in less than 2 years. They don't even have to know what the product is, and you will have investors. So it is really about saying this is a team that performs. So the better you have that story, the better you are. Okay, so now you've got their attention. You got to do due diligence. They're going to say, yes, I believe in this. Now I want to see all your corporate books. I want to see all of this. I want to see your cap table. I want to know who owns what. I want to see the chain of title on the underlying IP. I want to know what IP there is, and I want to be sure that you really own it. This is the kind of thing that comes in a due diligence notebook, and what you want to be doing is you want to make sure that you don't say to them, I'll get that back to you in 3 weeks, we're working on that. That has to be ready now. You should be documenting everything as you go. because that's how you're going to get this done. You want to show them again that you're ready and that you are a competent management team that can get this thing done. Once you've done that, you are ready to make it happen. Do I have time for questions? Yes. How are we doing? Okay, so cool. Sir.